My sister inherited $18 million, and I got a watch. But what she didn't know. Dad left me something that would destroy everything she thought she owned. My name is Eli Morgan. I'm 29, a graphic designer by trade, freelance mostly, though I've never had the luxury of truly freedom. I live in a modest apartment 2 hours outside the city. Rent's always late, and ramen's a regular dinner guest. But I've got my peace, or at least, I used to. My family? Complicated. Always has been. I was the quiet one. The observer. The artsy disappointment in a lineage of lawyers and CEOs. My sister, Clara, was the opposite. Straight A prodigy, team captain, golden child since birth. Everything she touched turned to gold, and anything I touched, she made sure turned to dust. I tell you this so you understand why I stood at the back of my father's funeral, hands in my pockets, heart in my throat, watching her take the stage like she was collecting an award. Clara strutted up to the podium like she'd rehearsed it 1,000 times. She shed a single tear. Delivered a perfectly timed eulogy. Her voice cracked just enough to sound human. People clapped. Yes, they actually clapped. She looked out at the mourners like she owned the world. And soon, she would. Or so she thought. See, when Dad died, I didn't just lose a parent, I lost the one person who still believed I mattered. Clara had spent years poisoning that well, moving home to care for him once he got sick. But what she really did? Isolate him. Control him. Keep the rest of us at arm's length, including me. By the time I got through the door, he barely recognized me. At the will reading, Clara's smile said everything. The estate. The business. The house. $18 million. Me. I got his old Rolex. I didn't flinch. I didn't rage. I smiled. Because Clara didn't know something. Something no one else in that room knew. Dad left me something else, off the record, hidden from every lawyer's folder. Something that would make her wish she'd only taken the money. I wasn't chasing revenge. I was going to expose the truth. And when it came out, Clara's kingdom would crumble, one secret at a time. The watch wasn't even in a box. The lawyer handed it to me like it was an afterthought, wrapped loosely in a cloth. It was heavy. Familiar. Worn smooth from years on my father's wrist. I remembered being a kid, sitting in his office, watching that second hand tick while he worked in silence. Back then, it felt like the watch was the heartbeat of our home, steady, predictable, safe. Now it felt like a farewell. Or maybe a challenge. Clara smirked as I pocketed it, like she was watching a loser get his consolation prize. Everyone offered her congratulations after the reading. Not condolences. Congratulations. She hugged people she hadn't spoken to in years. Promised donations to charities she didn't care about. Waved off legal questions with a practiced grace I didn't know she had. But I didn't stay for the parade. I left quietly. Back at my apartment, I sat on the edge of my bed and finally turned the watch over. There, etched in tiny letters on the inside of the band, were 4 words. Find the safety deposit. I blinked. Read it again. This wasn't some inspirational quote or a parting message. This was instruction. Dad was a man of few words, but when he spoke, it meant something. And now, even in death, he was speaking to me. There were only 2 banks he ever trusted, and only one where we shared the tiny moment of connection when I was younger, when he added my name to a long-forgotten account, just in case. I hadn't thought about it in years. But suddenly, it was the only thing I could think about. The next morning, I drove into the city. The bank was still there, same red bricks, same smell of cold marble and old money. I handed over my ID and waited. When the manager returned, he was holding a single key and an envelope. Inside the envelope, a note. 5 words. Trust no one. Not even her. And underneath it, a photo. Of Clara. But not the Clara the world knew. The one in the photo had blood on her hands, literally. It wasn't a recent picture. The edges were curled, the colors faded like it had sat in that envelope for years, waiting. Watching. In the photo, Clara stood at the edge of our father's study, backlit by the chandelier. Her face was half-shadowed, lips pursed like she'd been caught mid-sentence. And on her hands, dark, unmistakable stains. Blood. My first instinct. Fake. Photoshop. Some kind of sick manipulation. But then I saw the details, the small scar on her right knuckle from when she fell off her horse as a teenager, the antique rug under her feet that Dad had replaced years ago, and behind her, on the floor, was a shape. A blurred outline, but it looked human. My throat went dry. I flipped the photo over. A date was written in my father's precise handwriting, July 9, 2022. The day he fell down the stairs. The accident. Clara had told everyone it was the medication. Said he got dizzy. Disoriented. That she'd been upstairs when it happened and found him minutes later. The doctors agreed. Case closed. But this photo, this proof, said otherwise. And that wasn't all. Beneath the photo, tucked in the envelope's corner, was a flash drive. No label. Just black plastic and secrets. I stared at it for hours before plugging it in. My hands were sweating, stomach in knots. I knew once I opened it, there'd be no unseeing it. Inside were 7 folders, each named with a single number, 1 through 7. I clicked on the first. It was a video. Grainy footage, timestamped July 8, 2022, the night before Dad died. Clara's voice, unmistakable. You've got 2 choices, Dad. Sign it over now, or I'll handle it my way. Silence. Then his voice, weak, but firm. You'll regret this, Clara. Eli knows more than you think. My name. My name. She'd tried to erase me, but he left a trail. And I'd just taken my first step down it. I must have watched the video 20 times. Dad looked frail, his skin pale, hands trembling, but his eyes still had that sharpness I remembered. Even sick, even cornered, he didn't cave. But Clara. Clara was a stranger. She wasn't crying, or pleading, or scared. She was calm. Cold. Clinical. Like this was a business meeting. Like she'd already decided how it would end. I clicked into folder 2. It held documents, scans of legal paperwork, trust amendments, property transfers, and signed revisions to the will, and handwritten notes from Dad. In the margins, I saw questions scribbled next to Clara's proposed changes. Why cut Eli out entirely? She said this was temporary. Too aggressive, talk to lawyer first. But he never did. Because the very next day, he fell. I drove home from the bank in silence, my fingers gripping the wheel so tight they ached. My mind raced with questions. How long had she been planning this? How far would she go to keep it buried? When I got back to my apartment, I double-locked the door for the first time in years. I wasn't just holding onto some dusty family drama anymore. This was evidence. And Clara? Clara was dangerous. I pulled out the watch again, like it might whisper a next step. Instead, I remembered something else. Back when we were kids, Dad had this rule: if we ever needed to say something serious, really serious, we'd write it down and hide it in his chessboard. He said it was for when voices weren't safe. That old chessboard had been in his study for decades. The same study from the photo. If it was still there, maybe it held more than just dusty pieces. But the house belonged to Clara now. And I knew walking through that front door meant playing a very dangerous game. Still, I had to go back. Not for revenge. For truth. And if that chessboard still held a message for me, then Clara's story was already starting to crack. The house hadn't changed. Not the wrought iron gate that creaked when it opened. Not the winding driveway lined with dying hydrangeas. And not the looming silhouette of the Morgan estate itself, grand, cold, and echoing with the ghosts of better years. Clara had kept the place pristine. Of course she had. Power looks cleaner when it's polished. I parked a few houses down and walked up, hoodie on, hat low. The cameras were still where I remembered, over the front porch, angled toward the driveway, one by the side path. But Dad had taught me all the blind spots. He used to say, security's not about being watched, it's about knowing who's watching. I waited until dark. Slipped through the side yard. Found the basement door. Still unlocked, probably because she assumed no one else would ever dare come back. The house smelled the same. Cedar. Books. And faintly, her perfume. Every step upstairs made the floorboards groan, and every creak felt like a betrayal. My heart pounded louder than my footsteps, but I kept moving, past the hallway where I once raced Clara as kids, past the guest room she later turned into Dad's sickbed, and finally, to the study. The door was ajar. And the chessboard was still there. Same marble base. Same dust-covered table. Same faint chip on the bishop's corner. I opened it slowly. Pieces rattled inside. Then I saw it. A folded envelope, tucked beneath the Black Queen. It was sealed with red wax, Dad's seal, the old lion crest he used on personal letters. My hands shook as I cracked it open. Inside was a single note. If you're reading this, Eli, it means she got everything she wanted. But she didn't win. My breath caught. Look in the mirror. The answer's already behind you. I turned around instinctively. Just bookshelves. But then I noticed it, faint, almost invisible, a seam in the back panel, and a small indent, like a fingerprint reader or sensor. Something high-tech. Something Clara would never expect me to figure out, but I wasn't alone in this. Because suddenly, I remembered someone who could help. Someone Clara had burned long before she burned me. There was only one person I knew who could crack something like that bookshelf sensor. And ironically, she was the first person Clara ever threw under the bus. Her name was Maya Lin. Ex-CTO of Morgan Tech, brilliant, quiet, methodical. Dad had always trusted her. Clara didn't. Or maybe Clara just couldn't control her. A year before Dad got sick, Maya was forced out of the company after a breach in protocol. At least, that's what the press release said. But I remembered the truth. Maya had found discrepancies in Clara's numbers, misplaced funds, shell accounts, offshore movement. Clara denied everything. 2 weeks later, Maya resigned. Silently. With dignity. But not without consequences. She lost everything, career, reputation, even her clearance. And now I was about to ask her to dig again. I found her the old-school way, a paper trail. She ran a quiet little repair shop now, mostly custom electronics and smart home setups out of a converted warehouse just outside the city. When I walked in, she didn't look up. "You're 2 minutes late," she said without turning. Which, by your family's standards, is practically early. I smiled. Still sharp, huh? Now she looked at me, eyes like steel. Older, wearier, but still cutting through me like X-rays. "Eli Morgan. Thought you were the only decent one." "I'm trying to be." She raised a brow. "That usually means you need something." I pulled out my phone. Showed her the photo. The flash drive. The note. Told her everything in a low, steady voice. She didn't interrupt once. When I finally mentioned the sensor hidden in the bookshelf, she leaned back in her chair and exhaled slowly. "Your dad was paranoid," she said. "But in the right way. Can you get in?" She didn't hesitate. "I can do better. I can find out what Clara was trying to bury." She reached under the desk and pulled out a worn black backpack. "Let's go crack open a ghost." For the first time since the funeral, I felt something strange. Hope. We waited until midnight. Maya insisted on it, not because of superstition, but because she knew Clara's habits. "She'll be out," she said. "Wednesday nights, always at the Belmore Club. Image maintenance. She can't resist the cameras." I didn't ask how Maya still knew. I figured some burns never fully scar over. We slipped through the side yard again, this time with purpose. Maya moved like a shadow, scanning with a handheld device that beeped softly every few feet. "Pressure plates," she muttered. "Installed recently. Subtle. She's paranoid too." I almost laughed. Inside, the house felt different. Not just empty, watchful. Like it was waiting. In the study, Maya approached the bookshelf while I kept watch. She examined the seam, then pulled a narrow device from her pack and slid it across the surface. A quiet hum. A blink of light. Then, click. The panel shifted. Dust poured from the cracks as the hidden wall retracted, revealing a narrow stairwell, dark, steep, and descending into what looked like the bones of the house. I hesitated. Maya didn't. "We go now," she said. No time for second thoughts. We descended slowly, the air growing colder with every step. At the bottom, a door. Steel. No handle. Just a keypad. Maya plugged in another tool. Her fingers flew across the screen, her jaw tight. She changed the code, she whispered. But she's sloppy. Patterns don't lie. 5 minutes passed. Then the keypad blinked green. The door creaked open. Inside was a room I never knew existed. Part archive. Part bunker. Rows of file cabinets. Monitors still faintly glowing. And in the center, Dad's old laptop, sealed inside a case marked failsafe. Maya didn't move. Her face was pale. This isn't just about Clara, she murmured. I walked toward the case. Because I had to know. Whatever Dad was hiding down here, it wasn't just insurance. It was a confession. The case was cold to the touch. Brushed aluminum, sealed with dual locks and a biometric scanner. Maya whistled low under her breath. Custom build. Military grade. Your dad wasn't playing around. I nodded, my mouth dry. She plugged a cable into her tablet and started bypassing the lock. The screen displayed cascading code, digits and firewalls and encrypted layers I couldn't begin to understand. But Maya. She smiled like she was slipping into an old rhythm. 10 minutes later, the locks clicked open. Inside, Dad's laptop, older but well-maintained. Next to it, a flash drive labeled Echo in his handwriting. And beneath it all, a handwritten letter, addressed to me. My hands shook as I unfolded it. Eli. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I wish I could have protected you from what's coming, but Clara moved faster than I expected. I thought I had more time. Everything she has was built on lies. Lies I let her get away with for too long. I wanted to believe she would grow out of it. That the ambition would settle. But it didn't. It calcified. Hardened. She stopped seeing people. Only power. What's on this laptop will ruin her. And me. Because I let it happen. I let it grow under my roof, and now, I'm giving you the match. Use it wisely. And if Maya's with you, tell her I'm sorry. My chest tightened. Maya looked at me, lips pressed together. What's on it? I didn't answer. I turned the laptop on. It booted slowly. No passwords, just a single desktop folder labeled Confession_01. Inside, audio files, documents, surveillance footage. The first file was a voice memo. Dad's voice, raspy but clear. Clara orchestrated the acquisition of 3 smaller tech firms under shell identities, used insider information to bury competitors. Then funneled money through our foundation to clean the profits. She threatened to expose me if I spoke out. She knew about the offshore account. The bribes. The merger that nearly tanked the company in '09. I was compromised. And she knew it. I looked at Maya. Her expression had gone blank. She used both of you, I said. Maya just nodded, hollow-eyed. She used everyone. And now? Now I had the proof. But I also had a choice. Expose it all, and burn the family name. Or hold it, and become just like her. We sat in silence for what felt like an hour. Maya on the edge of the desk, staring at the flickering monitor. Me with the letter still trembling in my hand. The room around us, filled with so many secrets, felt like it could collapse under the weight of them. This, Maya finally whispered, is enough to take her down. Federal-level crimes. Fraud. Money laundering. Even blackmail. I nodded, but my stomach churned. And Dad, I said quietly. He knew. He let her. Maya looked away. People get scared when they think their legacy is slipping. Even the good ones. I stood, pacing. Every part of me wanted to release everything, send the files to the press, the SEC, every news station in the country. Let the world see Clara for who she really was. But then I thought about our name, Morgan. The company. The employees. The shareholders. The charities tied to our foundation. The people who still believed in the story Clara sold. They'd all fall with her. This isn't just an exposé, I said. It's a nuke. Then what are you going to do? Maya asked, folding her arms. Hold it over her head. That's her game, not yours. No, I said. I'm going to give her a choice. I waited until the next morning to send the message. A single line of text. I know everything. Meet me at the house. Alone. Midnight. It took her 6 minutes to reply. You're bluffing. But fine. That night, I was already waiting in the study when Clara walked in, heels clicking, black coat cinched tight, and eyes like knives. She looked at the open chessboard. The cracked seal. The faint dust disturbed on the bookshelf. And she knew. You went downstairs, she said coolly. I didn't say anything. You really want to do this? You think they'll care that you found it? You think you'll come out clean? I don't care about clean, I said. I care about truth. And you have a choice. I placed a flash drive on the desk between us. A copy of everything. Step down. Quietly. Resign from the company. Liquidate your assets and walk. Leave the foundation to someone who gives a damn. I give this to no one. Clara didn't move. Or I burn it all, I said. And take you with it. Her jaw clenched. You wouldn't dare. I leaned forward. You inherited the money, Clara. But I inherited the truth. Clara stared at the flash drive like it was radioactive. Her eyes didn't move from it, but her fingers twitched, subtle, involuntary. Like she wanted to lunge but didn't know what she'd do once she had it. I stayed silent. Let her stew in it. You really think you're some kind of hero, she finally said, voice sharp and trembling. You think burning this down makes you righteous? No, I said. It just makes me free. She laughed bitterly. You have no idea what you're holding. This isn't just about me, Eli. That data implicates people with real power. Government contracts. International partners. Investors with influence in places you can't even spell. Then maybe they shouldn't have done business with a liar. Her nostrils flared. This is why Dad cut you out. You never understood the game. No, I said. This is why he regretted it. She went still. I hadn't planned to say it. But it landed. I read his letter, I continued. I saw the files. The recordings. He didn't just leave that room behind, he left a way out. He trusted me to end this. The way he couldn't. Clara's jaw tightened, but her voice dropped, low and venomous. What do you want? I told you. Walk away. No headlines. No arrests. Just disappear. And don't come near the company, the estate, or the foundation ever again. You want me to vanish? Yes. And if I don't? Then the next person who gets this, I said, tapping the drive, is a journalist who already hates our last name. She folded her arms, considering. Calculating. And then, finally, she smiled. Not warm. Not defeated. Something colder. You're smarter than I thought, Eli. Not better. Just finally willing to get your hands dirty. She picked up the drive and examined it like it was a chess piece. Fine. You win. But something in her tone felt off. She left without another word. As the door clicked shut, Maya stepped out from the hallway. You believe her? She asked. No. Then why let her go? I turned to the desk and opened a second drawer. Inside, another flash drive. The real one. She never got the original. Maya smiled. You really are your father's son. Clara disappeared for 72 hours. No press releases. No social media activity. No appearances at the Belmore Club. For someone who lived in the spotlight, that silence was louder than a scream. But I knew better. Clara wasn't hiding. She was strategizing. Sure enough, on the fourth morning, headlines exploded. Morgan Foundation announces sudden restructuring, CEO steps down citing health reasons. Clara Morgan to relocate abroad amid corporate audit rumors. Insiders claim whistleblower triggered internal collapse. She was doing damage control. Slipping out the back door before the fire alarms went off. The company's board held a vote the same afternoon. Unanimous. Clara was officially out. But here's the twist. They didn't know it was me. I'd never revealed myself as the source. Maya helped route everything through legal proxies and anonymous tips. We scrubbed every digital footprint. The press never saw my name. Clara may have guessed, but she couldn't prove it. And by the time she realized, it was too late. I watched the live stream of her final public appearance, her face flawless, her tone calculated. But her eyes. Hollow. She gave a tight smile to the cameras, thanked her supporters, and said she looked forward to a quieter life, out of the public eye. Translation. Run. I almost pitied her. Almost. That night, I got a call from one of Dad's old advisors, a man I barely remembered. Your father once told me, he said, that if Clara ever took everything, it would be up to you to give it back. Give what back? I asked. He hesitated, then said something that shook me. The company. The foundation. The Morgan legacy. He left it in a trust. You're the successor. You always were. I sat in silence, the weight of it crashing down. I hadn't destroyed the empire. I'd inherited it. I didn't sleep that night. The idea that I, not Clara, was the true successor to the Morgan estate felt impossible. Absurd, even. I'd spent most of my life as a shadow in that house, in that family. The idea that Dad had chosen me. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like pressure. Maya met me at the apartment the next morning, sipping her coffee like it was just another Thursday. I showed her the trust documents, the clauses, the sealed amendments, the name scrawled in Dad's shaky signature. Successor, Eli Morgan. She exhaled sharply, eyebrows raised. Well, she said. He really did leave the final word to you. I couldn't stop pacing. I don't know the first thing about running a company. Or a foundation. Or any of this. Clara was the CEO, the strategist, the manipulator. I'm just. You're not her, Maya said, cutting me off. And that's why he chose you. I sat down hard, the weight of it all pressing on my chest. I'd started this journey looking for answers, maybe revenge. But now I held the keys to everything Clara had built. Everything she stole. And I had a choice. Let it all burn. Or rebuild it into something Dad would have been proud of. The board scheduled a private session the next day to officially transfer the trust's authority. Most of them barely remembered me. Some of them clearly doubted I could handle it. Until I walked in with Maya. Until I showed them the documents Clara buried. Until I said, clearly and calmly, this company won't run on lies anymore. There was silence. Then nods. Then a vote. Unanimous. Just like Clara's, but for entirely different reasons. That night, I stood in the old study, the same room where it all began. The chessboard was still open. The Black Queen was still missing. But I didn't need her anymore. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't a pawn. I was playing my own game. The house was quiet now. No echoes of Clara's sharp heels on the marble floors. No forced laughter at charity galas. No whispers behind closed doors. Just silence. And truth. I walked through the halls like I was seeing it for the first time. Not as the forgotten son, not as the outcast, but as someone who belonged. Someone who finally understood why Dad did what he did. He hadn't chosen me because I was perfect. He chose me because I still had a conscience. Clara had sent one last message. An email. Just 2 sentences. Congratulations. Enjoy the wreckage. Don't pretend your hands are clean. She wasn't wrong. I'd played the game. Pulled strings. Set the trap. She fell, but I'd built it. But here's the difference. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't need it. I just wanted it to end. It took months to repair the damage. We opened internal investigations. Cleared innocent employees. Restructured the Morgan Foundation with real transparency. Maya took a seat on the board. I refused a CEO title. I didn't want power, I wanted purpose. And slowly, the name Morgan started to mean something again. Not greed. Not scandal. Something better. I kept the watch. Not because of its value, but because it reminded me of Dad's voice, steady and quiet. The same voice that once said, you don't have to be like them to survive. Just be the one who walks out clean. As for Clara, last I heard, she was living somewhere in the Caymans. Quiet. Off-grid. Rumors said she changed her name. Others said she was planning a comeback. I don't care. Because she can't hurt us anymore. And even if she tried, I still have the real final word. Not the one she expected. Not revenge. Not blackmail. Just truth. And in the end, that was the one thing she never understood.